Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining today's Jetro Chicago's Jconnect webinar series. My name is Kevin Cowell, Business Development Specialist from Jetro Chicago, and I will be moderating the webinar. Our topic today is AgTech and FoodTech, featuring three exciting Midwestern startups: Canomics of Rochester, Minnesota, Agrograph of Madison, Wisconsin, and Nature's Fynd of Chicago, Illinois. Today's webinar will feature a look at intriguing innovations in the global agricultural and food ecosystem, which is witnessing a fundamental transformation as new technologies in artificial intelligence and IoT are leading a data-driven analytical approach to solving challenges in agricultural supply chains, sustainability, and meeting the food needs of global population growth. Midwestern innovators in the American heartland are driving much of the transformation in AgTech and FoodTech. We are excited to introduce our three companies today. First, if this is your first time attending a Jconnect webinar, we would like to welcome you. Our focus is to help connect innovative North American startups to Japanese affiliated companies doing business here in North America, and most importantly, to facilitate business relationships between the two. Likewise, it aims to improve the productivity of Japanese companies and to accelerate their open innovation strategies. I'd also like to remind you again to check out the landing page of our Jconnect webinar series on the Jetro USA homepage. You can find dates and information on upcoming industry topics, as well as recordings of our previous webinars. Today's webinar recording should be available on the site by early next week. So again, please check out Jetro USA's website for more info. Our first speaker will be Dr. Lena Pradhan-Navzik from Canomics, a B2B company based in Rochester, Minnesota. Using its genomics, bioinformatics, and AI-based product superiority platform, Canomics helps companies in the functional food and beverage, dietary supplement, and skincare industries develop science-backed, efficacious, and safe products. Canomics solutions help their customers differentiate their product and mitigate compliance and brand risks. In the process, they help consumers get the best quality products and make Canomics' vision of food as medicine a reality. Dr. Lena Pradhan-Navzik is the CEO and co-founder of Canomics. Lena has a PhD in pharmacology and an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management. She is an accomplished life science professional and an assistant professor of surgery at Harvard Medical School with extensive experience in industry and academia. Lena co-founded Canomics with her colleagues from Harvard Medical School to bring their collective expertise in science and health and wellness to the food, beverage, and dietary supplement industries. Lena currently lives in Rochester, Minnesota, and is excited to be close to some of the world's top food and agricultural companies. So, Lena, I think we're ready to go ahead and turn over to you here. We see you, and I think your presentation is coming up to the main screen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can see me now, so that's great. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me for this presentation, and looking forward to connecting with several of our audience. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me after the presentation is over. Happy to answer any questions offline as well. I am going to go to full screen mode. Wonderful. All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending today's session. Again, I am Lena Pradhan-Navzik. I am the CEO and co-founder of Canomics. Canomics is a B2B company making food as medicine a reality. We are a co-founding team of scientists and clinicians. This is Dr. Manoj Bhasin, who has a PhD in genomics bioinformatics. This is Dr. Frank Jerfo, who is a vascular surgeon. And we met many years ago as faculty members at Harvard Medical School. Started Canomics in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and now I have moved to Rochester, Minnesota. We started Canomics because we were seeing this trend of using functional foods and dietary supplements that people were using to manage their health and wellness, and we wanted to bring science through Canomics to this industry. And you know that this trend has been growing exponentially, and just last year during COVID, this has really exploded. But there are challenges that the consumers face in this industry. Consumers oftentimes don't know what products to buy. They don't know if they should trust the products. if these products work, if they're even safe. So there is a lot of consumer distrust and dissatisfaction. And to note, the FDA, at least in the US, only regulates these products once they are on the shelf. So before they are marketed, the FDA doesn't control that process, unlike drugs. But once they are on the shelf, then the FDA has to monitor the products for their safety. And then on top of it, the marketing in this industry can be quite overwhelming, chaotic. There are a lot of unsubstantiated claims. There are high-profile litigations and prosecutions, and it's just very overwhelming, and it's like the wild, wild west. So when we talk to the companies in this industry, they tell us that they face many challenges. Challenges related to consumers that I talked about product differentiation, consumer distrust, challenges related to supply chain, ingredients, especially ingredient sourcing of the ingredients, product development and manufacturing challenges, and then also compliance risk and prosecutions. And a lot of times there are product recalls. But when you take a higher view of all of these challenges, the common thread across all of them, what we found out is lack of scientific validation. And it's not that the companies don't want to use science. In fact, it's the opposite. A lot of times companies want to use science to solve these challenges, but science can be expensive, labs are expensive, maintaining in-house research can be expensive. A lot of times companies don't know where to even start. So we bring value to this industry through our end-to-end science-backed solutions to assure safety and efficacy of every product on the shelf. And our genomics, bioinformatics, and AI-powered product superiority platform, which is really a suite of different technologies, powers our 3 different solutions: product validation, ingredient certification and testing, and product innovation. And the first solution that we brought to the market is product validation. And this is our customized solution. It's using the solution, we validate our customers' products, and we test the biological safety and efficacy of their formulations to really support their nutritional claims and to help them design efficient clinical trials. So if you think about it, at this time, if a company wants to run a clinical trial, and let's say they have a couple of different formulations, how would they know which of those formulations would have a potential of success in that clinical trial, right? So a lot of the companies just go in blindly with the clinical trials. So our customizable R&D solutions, which are sort of the preclinical solutions, help these companies succeed by increase the chance by at least tenfold. Example would be if a company is looking to test a combination of green tea, ashwagandha, and turmeric, let's say for targeting joint health. Do they need all of those 3 ingredients, or can they just have a blend of green tea and ashwagandha? Okay, so those are the types of questions these solutions answer. And it also helps with reducing cost and time to market. So moving on to our second solution, which is ingredient testing and certification. So we used our customer insights from our product validation solution and developed our second solution. So, and if you are in this industry, you know that the current way of testing ingredients, especially in this industry, is quite outdated. It will only tell you if an ingredient is present or not, or a contaminant is present or not, and what's the amount of that ingredient. But what our patentable tests can do is we are creating really a new standard of testing, and it can tell you what that ingredient has an effect for. So what kind of biological effect that ingredient would have, and is that ingredient safe? Okay, and this is a completely new standard that we are developing for functional ingredients, because you know that these functional ingredients come from around the world, and their quality changes not only from one to the other, but even from the same supplier, you can have different quality for that same ingredient. So for the first time, you can really check the biological effect of this ingredient for every batch using this cutting edge technology. And we have a turnaround time, and we can do it in a cost efficient manner as well. And so how this works is that customers send us their sample, we test it in our lab, we provide them a quality report, and assuming that that ingredient passes the test, then we can send them a marketing toolkit to share it with their customers, especially if they're consumers, and then provide our approval to use our CAN-Trust Canomics certification seal on their packaging. So this CAN-Trust by Canomics certification seal is like your good housekeeping seal of approval, and it quickly communicates to the consumer or to the customer that this is a good quality product that they can trust. And on to our third solution, product innovation. So what if I were to tell you that you could invent science-backed formulations that could target a particular chronic condition? So we are doing exactly that. So if you think about it, the way current methods for developing new products really rely on just looking at what other companies are doing, looking at what other brands are doing, and maybe tweaking the formulation. What we have done is we have created a groundbreaking technology called GeneTune. And underlying that technology, we have two proprietary databases. So the first database includes about 30 different chronic conditions, and we have mapped what are the genes that are affected in that chronic condition. And then the second database is of 250 different herbs and 35 minerals and vitamins, and again mapped their relationship with about 20,000 human genes. And then brought those two databases together, built our GeneTune technology, GeneTune algorithm. And now what GeneTune can do is help us design the recipes of formulations to target a specific chronic health condition or a well. And using this technology or these recipes could be used for dietary supplements, could be made into teas, it could be made into drinks. Here for this particular solution, again, this is, as you can tell, this is not a lab-based solution. We are looking to partner with right CPG companies and bring these products to market. And the long-term potential for this solution for GeneTune is we can also use it for personalizing the formulation. So based on individuals' current health and wellness status, we can design a formulation for that person based on their current status. All of us know that this is a big market opportunity, and this market is constantly growing, and we are here to help all of you. And in fact, we are already helping several big companies whose products might already be in your cupboard. These companies are in, their revenue sizes range from $5 to $50 billion. We have helped these companies save about $15 million in their R&D costs, and along the way, we have made money as well. And again, we are serving global customers. This is where our current customers are located. This is where we are getting a lot of inbound from. So we know that we are in this industry that is constantly growing and constantly looking to change and develop new products. There are other future use cases for what we are doing. So think about it, right? We are testing all these ingredients that are coming from all different parts of the world. Down the line, what we also want to do is make sure that we can use these for traceability insights, right? So let's say green tea that is grown in certain part of China, okay? What is the end result? How does it really affect human health, okay? And so there's a CPG company looking for that particular attribute, that outcome. We can help them, make those right choices as to, use this company, use the supplier, use this farmer, this is the crop that they're growing, this is how they're harvesting, this is how they're producing the green tea. And this also helps with matchmaking as well. So CPG company looking for that supplier, we can help them because they are getting it tested with us. So those are the future use cases of our technology. But at the end of the day, what we really want to do is make sure that all the consumers out there that are relying on these products, that they have the best products, they have the safest products that they can trust. And so if you are a company in this industry looking to differentiate your product, looking to bring science to your product, just get in touch with us and we will help you in your journey as well. So with that, I will stop because I want to have more time for Q&A.
Thank you, Lena, for your presentation. I think you can hear me here. Before we start some questions here, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll for the audience, and I think they can see that on their screen now. So, and while the poll is on the screen, if you can answer that quickly, I'll let you know that our next Jconnect webinar is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, December 14th. And we will be moving to the evening time to try to capture Japanese audiences both in the US and in Japan. Our next industry topic will be smart cities, and tentatively we'll be featuring 5 Midwestern startups related to autonomous technologies, IoT platforms, drone delivery, and supply chain. So please look for email updates as well as info on our Jetro USA website. So I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. And let me see questions here. So I'll start here. As you mentioned in your presentation, there's a lot of marketing behind food and nutrition supplements that can be difficult maybe for the consumer to understand or maybe even believe. How can Canomics help us get beyond a point where consumers can start really trusting the marketing, from supplement companies?
Yeah, so that's why we have created our seal of approval. So if companies want to really test their products, test their ingredients before they are even made into products, they should come to us, and we will give. And if of course, if the ingredients pass the test, then we can give them a seal of approval. And over time, we want the consumers to know about Canomics, right? So we are like the Intel inside. Nobody goes in the store and buys an Intel product, but when you're buying your computer, you want that latest Intel chip, right? So that's what we are aiming for. And the other thing I would like to say is also companies, and we have seen this happen more often now. Companies are getting really interested in science. If you were to ask me 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. I mean, we are getting so much inbound, like I showed you, with minimal marketing. And what we're seeing is, to be relevant for the 21st century, more companies are looking to science to differentiate their products. Consumers are smart; they want to be smart with their products. So, that's our goal, to bring science to this industry.
Sure. And one quick question from the audience: are you manufacturing any of your own supplements, or providing just the tools and software to kind of support the manufacturing of?
Yeah, so we are not manufacturing our own products, so we will be testing. So let's say if you want to manufacture products and you have 3 different suppliers, we can test them for you and help you choose who would be the right supplier for your ingredient. And once you have, designed your formulation or made your formulation of 4 or 5 different ingredients, you can send us that formulation and we can test the full formulation as well. So before you make the formulation, we can help you figure out which ingredient to use. And once you make the formulation, we can test, okay, this is the right formulation to go ahead with. So we don't have.
Okay, and what challenges does Canomics face from the perspective of safety and standardization and regulatory compliance in the US market and maybe potentially other countries across the globe?
Yeah, so we are actually solving that challenge, right? So we are like I said, we are creating this whole new standard of quality. And we are the first to market using this kind of solution. And we had a couple of years ago conversation with the FDA. And at that time, we didn't know exactly what our technology was going to look like, but the FDA was really excited, the people we talked to, that there is a new standard that is using, biological effect, rather than just saying, okay, there is green tea or not, there is turmeric or not, there is CBD, right? We are taking it one step further, saying what is the potential effect of the CBD or of this this ingredient. So we are actually solving those challenges everywhere that we have, whatever regulatory bodies that we have had a chance to speak with are excited about where we are taking this industry. We don't have to get any approvals, if that was the question, but we are looking to get ISO for our type of testing, and we really want to standardize these products or these ingredients rather.
And can you talk a little bit more about traceability of ingredients? I know you kind of mentioned that at the end of your presentation, I think, especially on the consumer side of things, it's an important thing.
Yeah, so when we speak about traceability, what we are thinking about is when we test an ingredient, right? Let's say turmeric, for example. I just had a conversation with a supplier this morning from India. Turmeric comes from different regions of India, right? One region, maybe it's grown and harvested in a certain way versus the other. What if that, zone B is better than zone A, even from sustainability perspective. Zone B requires less water, but has better outcomes on health and wellness parameters that we look for, right? That is one thing. And when we say traceability, let's say you are a supplier and you have, gotten your turmeric from certain farm, and now what we are testing is the end result, right? Between that farm and that end result, there have been many different steps. So we don't actually do the tracing, but we can help you. That particular strain of turmeric that was grown in XYZ region, that was harvested in a certain way, that was processed in a certain way. This is the end point, okay? So we can help you, 2 years down the line, you're looking for that kind of outcome. We can tell you, hey, go to that, farm in zone B, that that was the outcome that we got. So that's how we are looking at traceability. And you can educate your consumer around that as well. You will know everything about that ingredient at that point. So.
Sure. I'm going to launch a second poll here. And as we talk here, maybe if you can kind of talk a little bit more about your kind of expected growth, both here in the States and globally in the next maybe 3 years, or if that's easy to answer. Can you hear me, Lena?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get that question, or I kind of went?
No, I didn't get the question though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you just talk a little bit more about your expected growth over the next 1 to 3 years? And
so
globally and here in the States. So.
Yeah. So we started off with this R&D customized solution, right? And we have already doubled our revenues from last year, but that's more of a consulting model. We are moving into this ingredient testing, which is more of a recurring solution model. And then eventually we want to do the product innovation. So as we move in through our solutions, we are looking to phase out the R&D because it's not exactly scalable. It helps us with the land and expand strategy, but over time, so that's how we are looking to grow. We have done detailed financial analysis around our growth, and I'm happy to take that conversation offline. But yeah, we are already global, and most of our customers are global. So we are happy to work with companies all around the world. We are actually working with companies in Europe and in Asia already, and of course the US.
So and just maybe one final question here. Do you have any specific needs or kind of wishes for the Japanese market? Maybe partner or
Yeah, absolutely. We've been getting some interest, or quite a bit of interest, from Japanese companies already. And I know I have discussed this with the Jetro folks. So yeah, and if you are interested in using our most cutting edge technology, bring your products to the market. We are happy to help you with that. I know there is a lot of consumer interest in the Japanese market, also from the skincare side of things. And so happy to have those one-on-one conversations. Absolutely.
Sure. Well, do you have any? Sorry.
We're already getting inbound from Japanese companies, so there's a lot of interest there already.
Very good, thank you. So thank you for your presentation. Would you like to give any final comments, or?
Yeah, get in touch with us. We are making food as medicine a reality. We want to make this industry relevant for the 21st century. We want to help the consumers in the end. So yeah, find us. And I think you mentioned, Kevin, that you were going to share my information, right, with the.
Yes, and if any of the companies in the audience would like us to share their information with Lena, we will do that after the fact. So, and I don't know, did you put your information at the end of your presentation, Lena? So.
I did not do that.
Okay. If you want to quickly share, maybe.
Yeah. So I should have done that. Let me just do this.
So if you could just share that in the chat, we're going to go ahead and start moving on to the next speaker. Thank you, Lena. So let me get to the next spot here. We'll move on to our next company and our next speaker. I'd like to welcome James O'Brien. He's the CEO and co-founder of Agrograph. They are a global platform for field-scale predictive modeling that delivers accurate and timely information on crop yields, land suitability, risk management, and other agricultural product information. Much like FICO reshaped the financial industry with its personal credit scores, Agrograph has a similar vision for agriculture. They call this credit score of agriculture, or Ag Risk Score. And it's an objective baseline for standardized farm-to-farm credit worthiness for use by crop insurers, lenders, and others. James O'Brien, he's the CEO and co-founder, as I mentioned. He has leadership positions at 4 startups, 2 of which he has co-founded. James was on the faculty at The Ohio State University in Agriculture Extension, then after 4 years left to form his own consulting company. He has led product innovation teams at several multinational corporations ranging from weather, insurance, financial services, and healthcare. James holds an MBA from Edgewood College, a Master of Science, Soil Science from University of Wisconsin-Madison, and a bachelor's degree agronomy from Iowa State University. So I will go ahead and turn it over now to you, James.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin, and thanks for the opportunity to present here at Jetro. So we're excited to tell our story and discuss our products. So let me get started here, sharing our screen. We'll do that. Let's see here. All right, looks like that's working as planned. So again, I'm really glad to have the opportunity to be here and talk with everyone about Agrograph. So let's tell you a little bit about the company. I'll give you a couple examples of why we do what we do. I'll talk about some industries and some specific cases of what we're doing in those industries, and then finish up with I'm going to say a call to action, but an open invite in a new product that we've rolled out that we're looking for some OEM or original equipment manufacturer collaboration. So let me get started here. So a little bit about Agrograph. We were founded in 2016. We're headquartered here in Madison, Wisconsin. We're a venture-backed company. Idea Fund here in Wisconsin and Mucker Capital of Los Angeles are our investors. And the folks constituting our board come from the agricultural and banking and insurance industry. Again, you'll find little surprise about our focus as a company being in banking and insurance and equipment. So that's who we constituted on our board. So what is Agrograph? If we were to have our elevator conversation, I'd say we're a data platform and that we utilize satellite imagery and machine learning to create agricultural information at the field level. So I could tell you every field planted to every crop everywhere in the world. And we create this information really for a handful of industries. Again, we don't serve the farmer directly. There's plenty of companies offering to do services around that. We really take this downscared data at the field level and build it into industry solutions. And those solutions are set to answer a direct question. And our primary question that we're answering or helping these industries answer is putting price to risk. And I'll talk about that in a minute, what we mean by price to risk. I want to note that our model is a global model, and that was one of our founding stances. So if we were going to create a field scale model, it needed to be able to go anywhere in the world. That's part of the reason we use satellite imagery, because everywhere in the world is seen by satellites virtually every 90 minutes. So it's pretty ubiquitous and high quality, but we can use aerial imagery and drone imagery as well. Just it doesn't scale and is not always as cost effective. But the industries that we focus on primarily are crop insurance and ag lending. And if you can think about that as an umbrella of risk, right? Putting a price to risk for an insurance policy or price to risk for an interest rate if you're a bank. We also do work in the land evaluation or real estate investment trust, work in ag technology and ag service industry with our data solutions, and Also some work in the grain and the biofuel industry as well. So these are the ones that we really focus on as a core company. So what we started out as addressing is really looking at this idea of credit worthiness. And it's not just a US issue. It's, in fact, you could talk with bankers and insurers across the globe. It's how do I determine this credit worthiness of a farm? And Kevin mentioned in the intro, in the United States, there's something called the FICO score, the Fair Isaac company that creates a credit analysis for the individual. But that doesn't really go outside of our borders. Other countries don't use the FICO score. They have different credit reports. But when it comes to writing a loan for a farm or helping them buy a piece of land or even getting a piece of equipment, there's a financial analysis done of the farmer, right? And they may look at their tax information, their last couple of years of yield data, but there's very little put into the farm analysis, which is really what's driving their financial analysis, right? So what Agrograph has done is, well, before I get to that, let me describe a little bit more of that situation, right? So the banks are looking at putting an interest rate for a loan, right? Are you a 3%? Are you a 5%? Or you're 10%, right? Depending on the institution itself. And for an insurer, it's how do I properly price that policy premium, right? And the way it works today is most bankers and insurers write their policies or write their loans at the field level, but they do their analysis at the regional or national level, or quite frankly, not at all, because they don't have the capacity, right? I can't go out and walk, 8,000 acres of a farm. And even if I did walk it, I don't know what I'm looking at, right? To really determine the credit worthiness, should I base my loan price on that farm? So there's this incomplete risk of the farmer. And what Agrograph is doing with our data solution is helping to complete that financial picture of both the farmer, the financial analysis, and the farm, working in conjunction with the insurance and the banker to create that complete view. And we call it the Ag Risk Score. We recently trademarked with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office as Agrograph as the credit score of agriculture. So we take this data and we build risk-based solutions. And again, some of them are driving the pricing of those products. Others are more internal, looking at risk index. Again, if you're looking at a hail risk index or yield volatility, or again, even a credit score, right? What are the other risks that impart this farm that I may need to be aware of that the farmer hasn't shared with me? Agrograph can help understand and really put a number to those risks. The way most customers work with us today is through our API and pulling our data in directly. We also have a custom web portal where you can visualize your data on our platform, and we also do some custom work and kind of white label solutions where our data is powering a tool that's built out for that customer itself. So let me run through a user story here, or really a use case. And this use case will look at ag lending industry or ag finance. So there's by 3 ways that we break this up, both from the loan side, kind of the onboarding, the underwriting, and the monitoring. And if we were to create a simple diagram of a bank, and if we look at the areas in kind of on the bottom here that are in blue, there's this onboarding client, right? Do I want to take you on into my portfolio, right? And if I do decide that, I need to underwrite you, right? Whether you're a bank or insurer. And then I need to monitor you through the season to see how your loan or your policy is coming along, and then either repay the loan or not. And what Agrograph does is we work with that bank to help pre-qualify, right? What are the characteristics you're looking for in that particular grower or farm? We can verify the amount of acres they're growing. Again, putting that risk score to that particular loan, and then really matching that risk to the rate, interest rate. We also provide additional services on monitoring that crop through the year. We just had an example of a bank that recently had a loan that the farmer never planted the crop, but the bank didn't find that out to the end of the year. So one of those awkward moments when you don't have any verification going on, perhaps unscrupulous folks can take advantage of that lack of insight. And again, that would translate into updating loans back for the bank and their repayment, and then again, their financial processes on their side. We also do work on appraisals, and we call it a parcel report. This product happens to be built just for North America, although we can build versions of this internationally, but we haven't had anyone ask for it, so we haven't built it. But the capability does exist there. So there is a problem today, particularly in North America, as getting an appraisal either for an operating loan or buying a piece of land. And Agrograph can do this within seconds. So you can click on a parcel and we'll pull up this information about its land classification, because we have a global land class model, the earning potential of that particular ground where that farmer sits. This happens to be the 83rd best producer in that particular geopolitical boundary. In this instance, it's a county. Our risk score, and then most importantly, the information about the land appraisal. How much is that land worth from a market standpoint? Again, we look at it from, I can't tell you that there's going to be a Walmart build next to this, and this plot goes from 8,000 acre to 20,000 acre, but I can tell you if you use it for agricultural purposes, that this land has so much earning potential based on the typical crops that are grown here. And based on that earning potential, we put a price. How much cash rent could you get for that? And then how much from sales and, looking at comparative sales. We build an agri-finance model around that. So again, this data is at their fingertips for helping those banks when they're trying to process appraisals, primarily for land. But also real estate investment trusts do those same appraisals on their portfolio, and we can help facilitate that and speed it up and really do it more cheaply. Then the last part is our work on sustainability. And you hear a lot now about sustainability or regenerative ag, and I could say depends on who's asking the question, regenerative ag, of how it's defined. A lot of squishy in there, but in general, the world over, sustainability is a hot topic and an important topic. And what Agrograph's role in that is looking, again, being an agri-finance company, our role is on the audit side, a sustainability audit. So if you tell us, here's the factors we're looking to benchmark for sustainability, we can show you how much of your portfolio meets that or falls below that benchmark. And do that programmatically. So again, reduces costs, increases efficiency, and really helps you find that number and find that kind of benchmark customer base that you're looking to match for your sustainable needs. So the last section of my presentation is the one where I would make a call for, if you're interested, we can talk. And this is about a new product that we've been building, and it's called the Field Readiness Index. And the concept behind the Field Readiness Index has come from my years working for the last, 20 some odd years in the agricultural industry, although my hair doesn't look like it, all across the world, that no matter where you are, when it comes to planting season, and again, you could argue there's planting, plowing, spraying, and harvesting. Planting is the most important. You get that wrong, it's a cascade effect to the rest of the season. But what the most sophisticated thing that happens around planting time is growers go out to their field with a screwdriver and walk it and say, I think it's ready to plant. And that we've seen that from wheat fields in Kazakhstan to cornfields in Iowa to growing jute in India. So it's different all across the world in terms of their crops, but in terms of their approach. And what we are doing with this Field Readiness Index is using information from satellite-based soil moisture, along with that we have a soil model as well. Look at the total amount of soil moisture that's in that field. And again, no growers looking to say, wow, I have 3% moisture or 25% moisture in my soil. What they really want to know is, can I go out and plant, right? Is it ready for planting? And that's the type of data we provide, that yes, you can go plant that field based on its historical planting date, based on the soil, the slope, the soil type, the other environmental conditions, really giving a kind of green light, yellow light, red light approach to planting. Again, and what the value of this is really helping to optimize the logistics, again, as we see in the United States, but also throughout the world, maybe less of a case in Japan as a call out, but the number of farmers are decreasing, which I think that's definitely the case in Japan, but the farm size is increasing. And that's putting additional pressure on all the supply chain that supports them. But again, our focus on banks and insurers really struggle with that increased demand for accountability and accuracy matching yield to risk. So this type of data, again, is more directed towards the farmer as opposed to our other products. But again, with an OEM equipment manufacturer, this is something that could be a value add back to their growers. And again, like all of the products we do at Agrograph, this is a global solution so that we can do this anywhere across the globe, and really looking for an OEM equipment manufacturer to partner with to distribute this. As we like to say, content is king, but distribution is King Kong. So working to get that product distributed out, we're really looking for that OEM collaborator. So with that, that's the conclusion of our formal presentation. I'm glad to answer any questions or comments you all may have. I have an email and a phone number. If you put a +1, if you're calling from outside the country, you can get a hold of us as well that way. And we'll look forward to hearing from you all. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Jim. Excellent presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a quick poll here to my audience. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and any additional questions, put them in the question box, please. So I'll launch a question here. So if you'd like to learn more about Agrograph and share contact info, please go ahead and answer here. As you complete this poll, I would like to announce that Jetro Chicago is going to have a Japanese food sample showroom project from early December to the end of March. This project showcases about 400 Japanese food and beverage products here in our Jetro Chicago office in downtown Chicago, and buyers can visit here and taste these product samples. We are pleased to arrange an online business meeting with buyers in the US and suppliers in Japan. So if you'd like to learn more, please reach out to our team after the webinar. So let me go ahead and close this poll and get to some questions here. So Jim, how much adoption of IoT and data analytics are you currently seeing in the agriculture industry? And maybe what are the challenges in overcoming any technology adoption barriers, whether large scale, small scale?
Yeah, great question. We're seeing quite a bit actually. And if I use banking as an example, but I'll use banking and insurance in the response. If we start with banking, most larger institutions, again, if we start with the larger institutions, they have a commercial and a consumer division, right? Doing mortgages and commercial loans. Those industries have already been highly, let's say, modularized, but they've seen a lot of innovation, like to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars put towards, again, the Amazon model, make it simple, make it easy, make it mobile. That same innovation and downward pressure is being put on these banks for the ag division. Like, why are we still having farmers walk come to the bank? Why do they have to fill a form out, literally fill a piece of paper out? Like, how many acres do you farm? What's your annual production history? How many years do you farm? Like, crazy. Like, so there's some downward pressure on these larger banks. Now, a lot of the smaller banks that, again, we focus more on the larger style banks and the global banks. There's a lot of the smaller banks. So that question of innovating, many of them are not, right? They have a relatively small footprint and they're not growing. And in those, you see more of this fight with the status quo. This is the way we've always done it. And again, they're not our target audience. And they're also the ones that are, they have a market they're serving. But we're seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions, particularly in the banking space, and not just US, across the globe. So this drive to innovation, from standardization to automation and efficiency, is really going across the board here. And there's this need for putting price to risk, whether you're doing a micro loan, in sub-Saharan Africa, or you're doing a big reinsurance product with the Swiss reinsurer. That type of data is needed.
I think this question is kind of similar to the previous, but do you find that the ag finance industry and banks, are they open to the new technologies that Agrograph is offering and for improving lending and financing practices, et cetera?
The answer is yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in business. There's many innovative banks out there. I mentioned Rabobank's been particularly innovative. We're not directly working with Rabobank. We've done some projects, but they've been a very innovative company in terms of their approach to banking. And it varies. I would say it varies across the spectrum of where you are in the innovation spectrum and the type of problems that you're trying to solve. Biggest thing in innovation is not boiling the ocean right away. It's like, how do I make appraisals more efficient, right? How do I make the loan process more efficient? How do I monitor loans through the growing season? And that's really, or help me put a risk score on my underperforming 10% of my book. Can you identify them? And number one, can I find better pricing and insurance that matches that price to risk? Again, simple things, and that's where we start off with, as you should with any innovation project, to really draw that bottom line and then kind of build up from there. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. So have you seen many challenges to scaling your technology or company at a global level during the pandemic? Obviously, the pandemic, you can't travel internationally, et cetera. So.
Yeah, actually, no. I've myself personally have worked remotely for over a decade, and I always say the view out my window is the same, but the world I'm looking at has changed. It actually really helped facilitate our business. Our business has doubled in revenue every year since inception, and we're hoping to triple and quadruple that in years to come. But no, COVID has really helped accelerate this need to be able to do, how do I do banking and insurance from the seat of my desk, where a lot of folks were kind of required to go out in the field or go to the farm. How can I do more analysis with the data that I have and translate that into better decision making, right? Still keeping that relationship with the customer, but again, doing more of the research at desk. So COVID's actually been a great facilitator, I think, to help move the industry towards, wow, we need to do more stuff on our phone or on a digital platform than papers and people.
Great. So for the Japanese market, I know you mentioned sort of about the OEM manufacturing, maybe possible partnerships desired for that. But do you have any other kind of things you'd like to specify, needs and wishes for the Japanese market while we're in front of a Japanese audience?
Yeah, I think the one area which the probably easiest connection would be in the equipment side. We've had a little bit of headway with some Japanese equipment makers looking to really expand on the US and the global market. But I think there's also opportunity on the insurance and even the reinsurance side of our data helping to drive decisions. So I would be open to those conversations. Again, we've worked with banks over in Europe. We're talking with some folks over in Ireland. So again, different size, but again, a very small market, but a very niche market, looking for very specific answers. So I think there's definitely an opportunity. And again, we have clients across the globe now. My map maybe isn't as diverse as our previous speaker's map in terms of global footprint, but again, we have done work and projects all around the globe and would welcome the opportunity to work in the Japanese market.
Great. Well, I think that's the final question. So if you'd like to kind of leave any kind of closing comments, we'll go ahead and let you do that now.
The closing comment is I'm always appreciative of the opportunity to speak to some new folks, particularly and share our story. I think we've seen incredible willingness to look at technology in the banking and insurance industry, which traditionally have not. And it's exciting to see the industry grow and change, and we're glad to be part of it. And hopefully we can expand some business and work with some great partners in Japan.
Thank you so much, Jim. Excellent presentation. We look forward to working with you. Thanks. So we're going to move on to our next speaker and next company. I'd like to introduce Kabir Nanda of Nature's Fynd. Nature's Fynd is a Chicago-based food company creating versatile alternative proteins for meat-free and dairy-free foods to nourish the world's growing population while nurturing the planet. Born out of research conducted for NASA on microbes with origins in Yellowstone National Park, the company's breakthrough fermentation technology grows Phy. Phy is a new-to-the-world nutritional fungi protein that uses only a fraction of the resources required by traditional agriculture. Nature's Fynd achieved unicorn status in July after raising $350 million in Series C funding led by SoftBank. Kabir Nanda is Director, International Expansion at Nature's Fynd. Kabir's passion is improving global living standards while transitioning the planet to a low-carbon economy, and he is currently building a more resilient and climate-friendly global food system through his work at Nature's Fynd. Kabir is also an MPA candidate at the Harvard Kennedy School. He has previous experience as a strategy consultant in emerging markets focused on scaling energy access and quality through low-carbon solutions, building a path-breaking organization to fight climate change in India, the India Climate Collaborative, and a range of issues across agriculture, education, and financial inclusion through projects across countries in East Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. So Kabir, I'd like to now turn it over to you.
Thanks very much, Kevin, and to the entire Jetro team for having us here. I really appreciate the opportunity. Could I be given access to share my screen, please?
Yes, just one sec. There we go.
Wonderful. Just give me 1 second. Great. Well, thank you everybody for taking the time to be here at this webinar. My name is Kabir Nanda. I'm the Director of International Expansion at Nature's Fynd, where I focus on building our pathways to new markets globally and sequencing our entry. I'm going to talk a little bit about the company and then our interest in the Asian market. And then I'm very happy to connect offline or answer any questions from the audience. So our origins trace back to Yellowstone, where members of our founding team were on a NASA collaborative research project to really explore extremophile organisms in the acid pools of Yellowstone. And that's where we discovered a fungi, a microbe called Fusarium strain flavolapis, which had some very extraordinary qualities because it's an extremophile organism. So we discovered that it's extremely efficient at converting biomass, or essentially any carbon source, into protein. And the protein that it created was the biomass that it created was 50% protein, and it contained all the essential amino acids and in high quantities, and also came with a native texture which was filamentous, allowing it to be used in a variety of applications across meat analogs as well as dairy. And it's an incredibly sturdy little microbe, and so it can survive in a range of conditions. And we realized after playing around with it that it's incredibly efficient to create protein at scale, requiring minimal water, energy, or land. And so we developed a liquid air surface fermentation process where we essentially produce protein, which we call Phi, from our microbe in simple food grade trays. So it eliminates the need for, when we think about fermentation, we typically think about submerged fermentation. So, you have that vision of, 10 and 20,000 liter, vats or bioreactors. And what we do is actually do it in trays in controlled chambers. And in 3 to 5 days, our protein gets created. And so that allows us to produce in an extremely modular fashion indoors. So, we are immune to weather conditions, rain, snow, hail, anything. And it allows us to actually produce close to the source of demand anywhere across the world. And so our protein, Phi, is an incredible base ingredient. It's natural, no genetic modification. It has a high degree of all the essential amino acids. It comes with fiber, beta-glucans, calcium, iron. And I think what's the most important when we think about alternative protein is that it is flavorless, odorless, and so it takes on flavors extremely well. And it has this native texture, as I'd mentioned earlier, because it's filamentous and it has these natural fibers that really mimic the mouthfeel of meat. And it emulsifies very well when used in dairy applications, which really mimics the creaminess of dairy in a way that few alternative proteins that we've seen can do. And so here's a picture of some of the things that we've created with Phi. So virtually everything in this picture that's not a fruit or vegetable is made with Phi, including the pot stickers, including the cream cheese, the burger, the nuggets. the mousse, yogurts, soups, dips, you name it. So it's incredibly versatile. As of now, we launched this year in the US with our two debut products, which are breakfast patties and cream cheese. We very recently actually launched across Chicago at Mariano's. And so in case any of you are there, it would be great if you could try it and give us some feedback. But we're scaling across the US rapidly, and we're very, very excited to eventually expand to the Asian market. We've been producing in our flagship facility in the Chicago stockyards throughout the last year and a half. But at the same time, some of you may have seen, we also recently announced that we're expanding to another 200,000 square foot facility called Marina Crossings, again in Chicago stockyards. I think now just to pivot towards the Asian market, I think for us, Asia has always been a very important focus. So even from the beginning, we focused on having partners that had either a global focus like ADM and Danone, or 1955 Capital that really aimed to provide a lot of connective tissue between the US and Asia. In our last funding round, we went even deeper. Of course, everybody here is very familiar with SoftBank, but we've also partnered with the SK Group, with Hill House Capital, Hong Kong, Young's Enterprise, and EDBI, which is the venture arm of the Singapore government. So I think that's a demonstration of our intent to scale in Asia, which we really think is going to be the global driver of future protein demand. The bulk of new protein demand over the next 15 years is going to come from Asia. We're seeing population growth, a rising consumer class, rapid urbanization. And so this is a region where the demand for protein is going to be high, and the demand for innovative solutions is going to be extremely high as well. And as a result, what we're seeing amidst this rising demand, an increasing focus on health and safety, a rise of zoonotic diseases in the pandemic as well, we're seeing an increasing interest in Asian consumers for all protein across China, Japan, India, South Korea, Thailand, everywhere. And we're seeing rapid growth, companies flooding the market, new and more innovative products launched every day, as well as some major existing players, both in the meat and CPG industries, launching their own products and brands. So I'm going to pause here and just say a couple of words about the Japanese market as well, which is one that we're following and we're very interested in. But we see that alternative protein is a growing trend there. And what we think is very interesting is also that Japan, of course, has an extremely rich food culture and legacy, but also a rich history of consuming soy-based products as well as fermented foods. And so I think that's one of the areas where the existing alternative protein space is kind of moving towards, and primarily driven by local players launching soy-based products. So, we've seen kind of large players like Fuji Oil and Koikea launch their own brands, but also really innovative startups like Next Meat with their Next Egg. So it's a market we're very interested in, and I'm open to multiple further conversations, but I'm just going to pause to see if anybody has any questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Kabir. So if you guys can put any questions in the question box, I'll go ahead and get to those in a second here. I'm going to launch a poll here, which you should be able to see. And let's see if we have any. I think we have a question here. Oh, 1 second here. So again, thank you, Kabir. And here's the first question. Does your bioreactor tech, hold on here, this is kind of small for me to read. Does your bioreactor tech is only for creating alternative protein, or are you able to process human guts health as postbiotics field? Sorry, that's kind of confusing.
Yeah, I would say that that's something I'm not personally familiar with, but I would be very happy to connect about it offline to explore. But as of now, so our technology, the the thrust of our technology doesn't lie in the bioreactor, it lies in the surface fermentation process. So what we require is a really tiny standard bioreactor to create kind of the inoculum or the base for the media. But then after that, we basically grow our protein in controlled growth chambers.
I see. And maybe could you talk a little bit more about the historical significance and symbolism of Nature's Fynd recently announced facility on the Chicago South Side? You know, a century ago, Chicago was known for being the largest meatpacking center in the United States. Of course, you know, right here in the city too. So could you talk about your expansion there and how it's
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I think, you know, Kevin, like you said, right? At its peak, the stockyards in Chicago processed about 15 million plus livestock every year. So it was actually, Chicago was known as the butcher of the world. And what we're trying to do actually is also, you know, in the city of Chicago, bring back the protein industry and, you know, bring protein production back to the heart of Chicago and in an area that's very familiar with that, with its history, and also use that as a way to bring back jobs and, you know, proper large-scale manufacturing and protein production back there. And I think the city of Chicago has been a wonderful partner for us in that process as well.
And as you expand, you know, and grow globally, do you expect to have these types of facilities in other cities around the world, or how are you going to? Do you plan on exporting, or how does that work for you guys?
No, absolutely. So I think, you know, I think COVID has really put this front and center for everyone, but I think that there's a renewed focus on the vulnerability of just-in-time global supply chains that are stretched very, very thin. I think for us, the beauty of our technology lies in its simplicity and elegance and ability to transplant it to various places. So I think we see a future where there will be multiple such facilities across the world, all located close to demand sites. I don't think in the future most countries are also going to want to go towards, you know, places where there's one mega facility somewhere in the world, you know, shipping everywhere, especially with the increased and very important focus on reducing emissions from the food industry. And that's something, again, that I think our technology does very well. It requires a fraction of the resources and produces a fraction of the emissions that many meat and plant-based proteins do.
And, you know, from the consumer perspective, how do companies like Nature's Fynd help to overcome resistance or doubt from those who are, you know, maybe too stuck in their ways with eating meat and dairy products?
So I think, again, that's incredibly interesting because, again, I think the pandemic has been an inflection point in how people view meat. I think both from the point of view of it's, you know, there's nothing like a pandemic and a health scare to turn up the contrast dial on what's important. And a lot of people have really started to view alternative proteins as a healthy alternative to meat, particularly when it comes to certain diseases. Both from the point of view of your own health, but also food safety and, you know, zoonotic diseases, which have been a big problem across particularly Asia. But I think the other part is, honestly, you know, we're here to provide consumers with an option, not here to say, you know, culture and food is very, very important all over the world. In some cultures, you know, particularly in Asia, for example, you know, fermentation is front and center. So we get a lot of really, really interesting reactions, and what we've seen is a lot of positivity and a lot of people wanting to be a part of the new movement.
And what is now Nature's Fynd expected growth over the, you know, next 1 to 3 years? You know, it's a fairly competitive market for meat and dairy alternatives.
So I think it's competitive, but at the same time, the alternative meat and dairy industry is just a tiny fraction. It's probably about like not even like 2% of the overall meat and dairy industry. So I think there's plenty of scope for growth. There's plenty of scope for innovation. And I think we're still at a point where consumers are just starting to realize some of the benefits and really get invested. And also people all over the world are starting to change their habits. So I see a really, really interesting growth path ahead, not just in the US where we're already in the market and expanding quickly, but all over the world.
Very good. And what key characteristics do you look for, like in commercialization and distribution partners in foreign markets, and specifically with Japan, if you can share that?
So I think, you know, again, we're open to a range of conversations around partnerships, and I'd love to connect offline. if anybody is curious to learn more about us or take the conversation forward. But I think when it comes to the Japanese market, I'd particularly love to speak to organizations that really know more about what's happening in the market, how consumers are thinking about this in Japan, because of course, culturally, it's a very, very unique country with a very unique food culture. We'd also be curious to know more about partners working in complementary industries. So for example, agriculture, supply chains, retail and food service, just to understand, what kind of avenues might there be for partnership. But yeah, like I said, so we're still at an early stage in exploring many Asian markets, but it's very, very high on our priority list.
Well, that seems to be the end of our questions. So Kabir, if you'd like to add any final comments to the audience.
No, just thank you very much to the Jetro team for inviting us and for organizing this. And I look forward to connecting with any interested parties offline. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kabir. Excellent presentation. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I would like to thank all of our speakers for taking the time to join our Jconnect webinar today and for all of your excellent presentations and comments. Likewise, I'd like to thank our attendees for joining the webinar today and for staying to the end. As I mentioned earlier in the program, our next Jconnect webinar on the topic of smart cities is tentatively set for Tuesday, December 14th at 6 p.m. Central Time, which would be Wednesday, 9 a.m. Japan time. So stay tuned for announcements on our Jconnect landing page on our Jetro USA website. We look forward to seeing you then. Thank you once again for attending.